YouTube, with many moves taking place already in the 2024 NBA offseason. We're about a few weeks in now, and we've seen big names go through free agency on different teams, like DeMar DeRozan as of late. We have Paul George to my Philadelphia 76ers. We have Mikal Bridges getting traded from the Nets to the Knicks. But two teams in particular, and some of the bigger market teams in the NBA, historically great franchises, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat, have really been kind of stagnant in this 2024 offseason, and that's kind of an understatement because the Heat have only, I believe at the time you're recording this video, only brought in one additional player to their roster in this offseason, haven't really made a ton of moves, and the Los Angeles Lakers have yet to make an addition to their team other than both these teams through the draft, obviously. But as far as free agency and trades, nothing has happened. It's been all quiet from the Lakers and the Miami Heat, both of them wanting to compete in 2025 for an NBA title, certainly have the star power to do so. These are two teams that have been to the finals recently. They're hoping to get to the finals in 2025. So why so quiet in the 2024 offseason? Well, in this video, I want to talk about, all the potential moves they could be making moving forward. We hear a lot about trades and, trade rumors with these teams, and there are still some really good trade options on the market. Question is, will Rob Pelinka and Pat Riley go for them respectively? That's what I want to get into in this video, folks. Will the Miami Heat and Los Angeles Lakers stay quiet for the rest of the offseason? And if not, what would it look like for them to make some noise? Let's talk about it, folks. So we're going to start with the Miami Heat, right? And the Miami Heat, if you look at their roster right now, it's obviously good enough to make a playoff spot. They've been really inconsistent throughout the regular season last few years. That's just the way Heat do things. The Heat, they go full send in the playoffs, and, they just try to hang around that play-in tournament, lower end playoff seed in the regular season. But, that has really kind of come back to bite them the last couple of years. You think about last season where, they struggled to get out of the play-in tournament. Jimmy Butler is, not necessarily a young player anymore. And while you do have a great culture, great coach, probably the best coach in the league, in my opinion, in Eric Spoelstra, you do have a star center, Bam Adebayo. You do have other pieces around him and Jimmy, to compete, like Tyler Hero, like young forward Jaime Jaquez Jr. This is a team that I think clearly needs to improve their talent. We saw a trade last season to bring in Terry Rozier for some more offense, but particularly the offensive end of the floor. The Heat are always going to be a powerhouse defensively when you have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo running things. But offensively, this team has struggled at times throughout the last couple of years and ranked super low last season in terms of offense. It's clear and obvious, like I said, that this team could use a little bit more star power and just a little bit more talent in general to get back to that level where they were making the finals all the time and, beating teams in the playoffs like Boston, right? With everyone else in the East, at the top of the conference seemingly getting much better. Talk about the Sixers, the Knicks, and, obviously the Celtics are, in my opinion, the favorite to win the conference just going into the season without making any additions, right? What can the Heat do, in the trade market? Because, clearly they're not going to be, signing a ton of free agents. They just don't have the situation or cap room to be able to do that. You bring in Alec Burks. That's like the only move they've made so far. You draft center Khalil Ware, who, showed a lot of flashes in his summer league debut. But I want to talk about the trade market, right? So now that we, kind of looked at their roster, kind of what they need, they need a little bit of extra punch offensively, right? I think a big issue for them has been, consistent shot creation and shot making and playmaking as well. I mean, you lose guys like Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, and Gabe Vincent throughout the last few years, and those guys were playmakers, right? Those guys are ball handlers. You bring in Terry Rozier, as I mentioned, but I think this team just needs a little bit more playmaking and, consistent shot making ability. Pat Riley has talked about how he thinks this team is good enough to compete and contend for a title in the East this season as the roster is, so that's not very encouraging if you're a Miami Heat fan. I know both of these fan bases are going nuts that their team hasn't made any moves when everyone else seems to be getting better in their respective conferences. But the big name I want to talk about for the Miami Heat is Brandon Ingram, right? I think Brandon Ingram would fit so well with what the Miami Heat need offensively. It's not even funny. Like, he is the perfect fit for me, in my opinion. This is a guy who can, as I mentioned, the playmaking, right? This is one of the more underrated playmakers in the entire league. He can handle the ball like a guard, but he's about anywhere from 6'7" to 6'10". I think he's more like 6'8" or 6'9", but this is a guy who can, legitimately be a lead playmaker on a team. You would split the playmaking duties from him and Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier would just be nuts, right? And Tyler Hero as well, but I think to get Brandon Ingram, right, the Miami Heat don't have a ton of trade assets at the moment that, aren't going to be sacrificing their 2025 season, right? The biggest trade assets the Miami Heat have, in my opinion, are players, right? And they're win now type of players that are basically vital to this core, I believe, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments if you know more about this, but, through my research for this video, I found out that apparently Miami only has has 1 tradable first round pick, so that's not a great sign if you're trying to get a guy like Brandon Ingram and pry him from the Pelicans, right? It would take at least a couple first round picks for Brandon Ingram. It doesn't look like the Pels want to re-sign him, but I think it would take a player and a couple picks, and the Miami Heat would need to match the salary, right? So the biggest assets that Miami could trade, as I mentioned, are players. Those players would include Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and those are the 2 guys I think, are going to have the most trade value as far as guys that, aren't Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, right? So you might want to throw in that 2030 pick and then, send like Tyler Hero or, Jaime Jaquez, right? It would probably have to be Jaime Jaquez. You think about the Pelicans roster, right? And Tyler Hero wouldn't make a ton of sense after that DeJounte Murray trade. They basically have their future backcourt set with CJ McCollum and DeJounte Murray. So Tyler Hero wouldn't make a ton of sense for them. So, you really probably would need to send a guy like Jaime Jaquez and a pick and, maybe some other little things to make it, work on the margins. That's not really the best fit as far as the trade for the Heat, right? Because, if you're getting Brandon Ingram, you can only have 1 basketball on the floor at any given time. Tyler Hero can come off the bench, but I think his best value is as a, prominent role in your offense as far as, shot taking, making, and playmaking, right? So you bring in Terry Rozier, who has a similar skill set, in my opinion, to Tyler Hero, right? So, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to keep Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, and Brandon Ingram on the roster if they're going to trade for Brandon Ingram. That's number 1. But Brandon Ingram, I think, on the trade market does make the most sense for the Miami Heat. It's just a matter of how much, assets does Pat Riley want to give up for a guy like Brandon Ingram, and, it doesn't seem like he wants to give up any assets as of right now. So super interesting. I think they do need a forward or wing type of player, just a ball handler that can score on multiple levels, shot creation wise, like they can create their own shot, they can play make and kind of facilitate an offense while also, scoring on multiple levels from self creation. So that's why I think the fit is almost perfect. But I will say, you certainly don't want to lose a guy like Jaime Jaquez, who's been amazing in his rookie year. I think he's going to get so much better too. So it's just going to be interesting. The Miami Heat are clearly at a talent deficit when it comes to Philly, Boston, and New York. The problem is, and even honestly Milwaukee, if you want to really think about it, but the problem is, Miami, the way their roster is constructed, they don't have a ton to give up that's super desirable or valuable to other teams that won't affect their entire core, right? What they do have going for them is Heat culture, right? And that can always be a wild card when given a series against a team that is more talented, right? This team is going to play harder than you, they're going to play smarter than you, they're going to be more physical than you, and they probably want it more than you, right? That's what you have if you're the Miami Heat, but again, you do have a talent deficit, and that is what held the Miami Heat back, in my opinion, from winning a title, right? When we talk about the Denver series, right? They just went up against a team that was better than them. When we talk about Boston, they end up kind of beating a team that's better than them sometimes, but I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. Boston got a ton better and a ton more mentally tough. The Miami Heat are in trouble if they don't decide to make some moves. I think this is a team, again, that could definitely be a conference final or, second round team if everything, goes well with Jimmy Butler's injury recovery with his knee. Everyone comes back healthy and strong, right? You draft Khalil Ware. They like what they see from him, I would imagine, as a backup 5. But, right now it just looks like they're going to be at a talent deficit once again here. And, they're getting only older with Jimmy Butler. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens there. They're going to have to definitely win a lot more games in the regular season if they want to compete for a title next season. And Pat Riley's unwillingness to make some big moves in trades could end up holding them back long term. Now let's move on to the Lakers, right? The Lakers, every person that's ever available for a trade or a big free agent sign and trade, whatever it is going to be rumored to the Lakers, right? They are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. They are the biggest market team. They are basketball royalty, right? And they're located in, sunny Los Angeles with good weather. And obviously the Lakers, with their giant Lakers Nation fan base. Comment down below, Lakers Nation, if you are a Lakers fan, because I bet there's at least a few of you watching this video right now. But as I said, every trade asset, every target, is going to be rumored to the Lakers. The Lakers, another team that I'm not sure they're at as big of a talent deficit as Miami is. There's clearly enough talent to get to the Western Conference Finals, right? The problem is, we talked about the consistency with the Lakers, right? LeBron's almost 40 years old. He'd be 40 years old going into the playoffs next season, right? Anthony Davis is one of the best players in the league, and they both ended up playing a full healthy season last year, really, over 70 games each, and I think that's a big positive. The Lakers have a few guys coming back from injuries, which I think will be big for them, right? They've invested a lot of money into these role players. You think about Rui Hachimura on a pretty big contract, Austin Reeves on a pretty big contract. And when I'm saying big contract, I mean 4 role players specifically. D'Angelo Russell coming back on a big contract. Jared Vanderbilt and, Gabe Vincent are 2 guys they gave money to. So, but those names in particular, Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent, those are the 2 guys guys I want you guys to watch, because when you really think about it, those guys weren't healthy for most of the year last year, right? And these are big difference makers, on paper. I actually want to see what the ceiling raising ability of Coach JJ Redick is going to give the Lakers, and with guys coming back that are, win now type of role players like Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt, primarily defensively, both of them, I think you could be looking at a much better Lakers team next season without making any additions because of the elevated coaching of JJ Redick, and also getting guys back that are really solid in those two guys I mentioned. So I think maybe it is smart for the Lakers to wait and see how the first month of the season goes, right? If JJ Redick is as great as you hope him to be and makes a massive difference in that team and locker room and system from Coach Darvin Ham, I think you have the biggest upgrade you could possibly get, right? Which is a higher ceiling because of your coach and because of two role players coming back healthy. I'm pretty sure LeBron has made it clear that he wants a another superstar, and I just don't know that that's the best approach with the Lakers right now. I don't think top heavy teams are the best anymore. You need a lot of depth, and the Lakers honestly have a lot of depth, right? We've heard about Brook Lopez being a trade target for the Lakers, and I think that makes sense, right? You talk about a guy that can lock up defensively on the interior as good as almost anyone in the league. You'd have him and Anthony Davis to run through if you're trying to get into the paint, and LeBron on the weak side or in transition with those chase down blocks. And then also, that would be the best front court defensively in the entire league, right? Brook Lopez, Anthony Davis, Jared Vanderbilt, and LeBron James. That's your, top four front court members. That's nuts, right? The thing is, Brook Lopez offensively also makes a ton of sense, right? Anthony Davis has talked about multiple times how he doesn't like to play center. He feels more natural at a power forward. And when the Lakers were their best, right, with this, core, LeBron and AD, talk about 2020 winning that ring against the Miami Heat, they had two legitimate centers that were athletic and, defensive rim protectors that could let AD do what he felt comfortable with on, being a power forward. Brook Lopez, not really a good athlete anymore at this point in his career. He's super old, right? But he does provide a skill set offensively as well that I think could help AD big time, and that is his perimeter shooting. Brook Lopez, one of the best three-point shooting big men in the league, no question. So basically, he's just going to stand out the three-point line and, wait for a catch and shoot and knock him down. He's got range out of the gym, right? He can knock him down from 30 feet on a catch and shoot. He can shoot it over anybody. Brook Lopez is a monster shooter and rim protector. I think it makes sense if you're going to trade one of those tradable first-round picks you have. I think you have two if you're the Lakers, right? You could even throw in a player to match the salary, right? You could throw in a role player that, you're not super in love with as far as, wanting them to be on your team next year under their contract. So I think Brook Lopez, again, makes a ton of sense for the Lakers, and that is the guy I want to see them make a move for. On both ends of the floor, it makes sense to fit, right? As far as players Lakers fans are talking about, because as I mentioned, anytime there's a player on the market, Lakers fans are always going to speculate, and those players include Trae Young, Zach LaVine, DeAndre Ayton, Lauri Markkanen, and Robert Williams, right? Robert Williams is another one I think could make a lot of sense. A lot more athletic than Brook Lopez, but a lot more inconsistent as well and injury prone. But I think, as far as Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen and, Trae Young, but first of all, with Zach LaVine, this is a player that I'm not sure I'd want with that contract as a Lakers fan, right? I get that he has, elite shot creation and scoring ability from that wing position or, shooting guard position, whatever. I just don't love the contract, and I'm not going to trade a bunch of, assets away, not even a bunch, because apparently the Chicago Bulls asking price has significantly lowered, right? So it could be a first round pick and, a salary match, right? But then you're trading away role players for this guy who honestly has had a ton of injury issues, right? I like the fit, as far as his skill set, right? He's a guy that can space the floor off the dribble and add a lot of gravity to the Lakers, which I think they need. But as far as just the overall contract and trade situation, I wouldn't love it. Trae Young and Lauri Markkanen are going to require more assets than you can give, right? Lauri Markkanen, if the Jazz end up trading him, it's going to be more than probably what Rudy Gobert got in his trade, right? It's going to be a bunch of young role players and 5 first-round picks. The Lakers don't have those picks, and honestly, you'd have to trade Austin Reeves and a bunch of role players, like I said. So it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me to go for Lauri Markkanen. Trae Young, kind of same thing. The Hawks are going to demand ransom for this guy, and these two players all deserve those assets in return. So I'm not saying they shouldn't, demand that, but I'm saying, the Lakers just don't have what it's going to take to get those guys. Look at what the Brooklyn Nets just got for Mikal Bridges, right? A ton of draft picks. That's what it would take for those guys. I just think more realistically, you're looking at, maybe a Brook Lopez, a Robert Williams type of guy that can, come in and just be a solid role player that fits in nicely with the team and what you're trying to do with AD at the 4 or the 5, depending on where, Coach Redick wants to play him. But that is more realistic to me. I think Brook Lopez makes the most sense, and he'd cost probably the least. So I think, you know, that is the guy I would target if I'm the Lakers. And other than that, though, you know, both of these teams, you know, really need to make something happen because their fans are just going crazy, right? And I get it. I'm a Sixers fan, and, you know, I was going crazy for like the first day or two of free agency. I'm like, why haven't we signed Paul George yet? What are we doing? We're missing out on all these players. We saw a bunch of players, you know, Mikal Bridges got traded, and then I'm like, oh no, we're done. We're done. Like, we need to make something happen. You get impatient, you get freaked out, and you're like, we're just not as good as, you know, some of these other teams that we're trying to beat in our conference. So I get that panic, but listen, man, if you're a Lakers fan, I think you're in an enviable position, no question about it. You have as good of chance to contend as most of those teams in the West. You know, I'd probably give OKC and Minnesota the highest chance because to me, they've improved a ton, and, you know, they were just so consistent last year, and, you know, just have a great roster coming back. Denver, I, you know, put on the Lakers scale of like, they've lost some players and they just didn't look great in the offs last season, right? I just think the Lakers are going to be fine, you know, but the Miami Heat are one that I don't know what they're doing, man. They really got to get someone in there that can, you know, kind of change a little bit of that offensive, you know, firepower, right? So hopefully if you're a Lakers fan or a Miami Heat fan, you can let me know down in the comment section what you think of this situation. You know, I'm always open to you guys' feedback, criticism, whatever. I just love gaining the perspective of another fan base, right? I talked about this in the Memphis video, you know, which, you know, by the way, the response on the Memphis video was insane. I've gained so much admiration and respect, and I just ended up loving the Memphis fans. They're just so great and, you know, passionate about their team, which I can totally relate to as a Sixers fan. But like I said, you know, a lot of times as an outsider looking in on a particular team, I don't know all the nuanced stuff that you guys know, all the day-to-day stuff. I see like a few, you know, bullet points of like, this is their offseason in bullet point, but it's not, you know, it's more complicated than that. So I could tell you more stuff about the Sixers than probably, you know, an outside person would be able to. That's not a fan of them. So what I'm saying is, if you guys are a Heat or Lakers fan, let me know down in the comment section what you think, because I guarantee you know something I don't, maybe something I'm missing, or just, you know, as a, you know, non-Laker or Heat fan, obviously you're gonna know more of those things than I would. So please fill me in if you can. I always love to hear the perspective of other, you know, fan bases. It's you know, part of the reason I do this. I love engaging with different fan bases. So definitely let me know. But hopefully, guys, you know, if you're a Lakers or Heat fan, just, you know, don't overreact, I would say, because, you know, it is just at the end of the day, you guys are in a good situation, right? You're both contenders legitimately, and whether you make a move or not, I'm sure Rob Pelinka and, you know, Pat Riley got some cooking, right? So a lot of this, like, you know, Pat Riley saying, you know, he's not gonna target anyone, he likes the roster they have, that could just be media stuff to like get other teams. It's just politics, right? So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, man. If you guys did, make sure you guys drop a like on it. It really helps out the video, helps new people find the video, and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. We upload content just like this every single day on the channel, so that's what you're getting if you subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, like I said, you know, more videos every day will come out from this channel just like this. So that's what you can expect if you subscribe. You know, I will 100% guarantee you that, right? Or your money back. Just kidding. Subscribing is free, but hey, that's another reason to subscribe, right? No, I will catch you guys on the next one. Hopefully, guys, as I mentioned, have a great rest of your day today, and let me know down in the comments what you think, Lakers fan, Heat fan, or not. I would love to know your perspective. I'm always open to new perspectives. It really helps me as a creator, and just as a basketball fan. That's why I do this. I'm in love with basketball, and I like to talk about it every day, right? So even if my takes are, you know, garbage, you know, they do come from me, and that is what I can promise you every day on the channel. So all things NBA every day. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. This is your boy D-Haven. As always, peace.